Dealing with diversity in the workplace means understanding and relating effectively with people who are different than you. The ability for a diverse group of people to build strength and unity through their diversity is the power that propels organizations into new dimensions of performance and innovation. Discussions of workplace diversity in the United States tend to start around topics of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, and disability. However, organizations that thrive in the future will need to have employees and managers who are aware of and skilled in dealing with differences amongst these particular identity lines. Welcome to the OneSJI Diversity Podcast. I'm your host, Tiara Neal, and I will be joined today by my co-host, Danielle and Caitlin of Emerging Leaders. This month's Diversity Podcast will highlight just one section of diversity, social identity, and that is around age. Generational diversity is something that is very rarely discussed, but can add to the innovation and growth of an organization. I am so excited to hear from Danielle and Caitlin with regards to what they have to share around this issue, as well as some of the amazing statistics and data within our own organization that supports and drives our growth as leaders in our industry. Welcome to the OneSJI Diversity Podcast, guys. Looking forward to hearing what you have to share.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin Kutsianis, and I am the Construction Operations Administrator for South Jersey Gas. I have been a part of Emerging Leaders since I started with the company in 2018, and I am one of the co-chairs for the group, and I am here with my other co-chair, Danielle Walbert. Danielle, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Kate. I'm Danielle Wilbert, as Kate just said. I am the Manager of Innovation and Business Improvement here. I've been at the company about 9 years and a part of Emerging Leaders since it started as an ERG in 2017. This will be my second year as a co-chair, and we do have another co-chair who couldn't be with us today, but Cheryl Pollack, so you'll see a lot from her this year too as we talk about our ERG and some of the programming we have. But Kate, if you want to give a little overview of, what do we do in Emerging Leaders?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Emerging Leaders is one of the 4 ERGs that we have here at SJI. Our group's key tenets are networking, engagement, professional development, leadership, and innovation. So we've had a lot of events, panel events, live speaker events, as well as networking opportunities. In 2021, our group decided to make generations and generational gaps our D&I focus moving forward. We were one of the ERGs that didn't really have a specific D&I focus. We kind of in the past just focused on leadership development, seeing where the company's going and how our workforce is changing. We thought this would be a great opportunity and a great focus area for our group. Danielle, would you like to talk a little bit more about what generational diversity is?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Kate, is why we wanted to shift some of our focus as well to talk about generational diversity is for a long time, people assumed Emerging Leaders was just focused on millennials and the younger generations here, that's all we really looked at. We're young professionals, but we've really been working over the last few years to change that, to show that anyone can be an Emerging Leaders and that we're just looking for people who want to grow in their professional development. We found that through that, a lot of the opportunity people were looking for was networking and knowledge sharing and experience. And it really led us down this path to generations and generational diversity. What that means is it's essentially just that a company has a wide range of generations within their workforce. This is especially true today for a lot of companies because individuals are retiring later and people are also joining the workforce earlier. So for the first time in a lot of companies, there's 5 generations: the Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, boomers, and traditionals. Here at SJI, we currently only have 4 generations, which are boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z, now becoming one of our new fastest growing generations joining our company, especially they're the ones, coming fresh out of college now. And this is a really interesting place for us. And if you look at our ESG report over the last 3 years, you can see this really quick growth in some areas For example, in 2018, we had about 30% of our workforce was made up of millennials, and by 2020, that was 37%. So a pretty significant growth there. And then additionally, on the other side, in 2018, about 38% of our workforce was made up of boomers, and in 2020, we're at 24% because a lot of those individuals are retiring now. And the new exciting group that's coming in is Gen Z. In 2018, we didn't even have a full percent of Gen Z that were working for the company yet. And according to our 2020 ESG report, we had 4%. So I'm assuming, much like the growth we've seen in millennials, that Gen Z is going to have a significant increase in our workforce over the next, year or two. We want to make sure that we're bridging the gap and including everyone in the conversation and making everyone feel welcome, because those perspectives are really important to the company. And I know, Kate, you have a couple of thoughts on the benefits that generational diversity brings here, and we just want to make sure that we're putting a spotlight on some of that.
Yeah, I think the biggest benefit that generational diversity, like every other diversity area has, is that diversity of thought and experience. A key benefit, I think, for generational diversity is that knowledge sharing. And this goes both ways. So there could be knowledge sharing from those that have been at the company for a longer amount of time, like our boomers and Gen X, sharing their experiences and what they've learned over the years with those in the younger generations. However, there's also knowledge sharing the other way too. As far as those who, Gen X or Gen Z is, coming out of college, they have new ideas. They're new to the utility industry, so they're thinking of innovative ways to do things. So again, knowledge sharing really does go both ways. And the best way to capitalize on that is just communication and having respect for one another, which again can be a challenge at times when sometimes we are flooded with maybe stereotypes of generations or thinking that one way of communication works for everybody in a certain generation. However, that's not the case. So that's really the focus for our group and the company moving forward, is trying to break down some of those barriers to really benefit from having all these generations working under SJI together.
Yeah, and I think another great point to that is when you think about the benefits of generational diversity, another big area that it's really important in is our industry as a whole, and our field workers and our union workers, and the knowledge that they can learn from each other and the experiences that they've had there, and that what we can even learn, as non-union folks about our industry from their experience. You don't get that unless you're doing it, and that's only going to benefit all of us in the long run to really understand our experiences and what we've learned from, actually doing the job and actually being out there. It's really important to make sure that we can continue to succeed. And then additionally, to Kate's point, the younger generations too, we are in an interesting place in the industry and in the energy, space, and having new ideas coming in from our younger employees and taking that into consideration to make sure we can drive ourselves forward as a company and continue to evolve and grow as we have different changes, whether they're regulatory or, socioeconomic. Those opinions and perspectives are going to be key for us. One of the things that could happen if we're not focused on that, and why we wanted to make it a priority for us, is much like gender or minority representation, age and generation representation is also important to people as they're coming into the workforce. Especially the younger generations, you want to make sure that you feel represented and that you feel like you're going to be accepted and that you're going to be respected here. And one of the fears that a lot of studies have shown is that younger generations coming into a company, if they don't have a good representation of themselves or have an understanding of how the company looks at generations, they feel like their opinion's not going to be valued because they are coming in as, a new employee with not a lot of experience. And we really want to make sure as a company that we are always this welcoming, friendly family that we are here today as SJI. And we just want to make sure that we continue to do that. With it, as Kate had kind of mentioned too, stereotypes and our unconscious bias are a big challenge. Making sure that we can communicate with each other effectively and understand some of why generations are the way that they are, but not from this, stereotypical way, but actually using some information and bringing in, key speakers who are knowledgeable in this area, but also leveraging our employees themselves to talk candidly and open about their experiences and their perspectives. It's going to really drive us to have, a better understanding of each other, which is just going to make us a better workforce. So we have a lot of exciting things that we're going to work on this year that we think will help with that.
And I think some ways, as we talked about, communication is obviously a big part of making sure that we're understanding each other. Mentorship is also a big one. We at SJI have a lot of informal mentorship programs, but also as emerging leaders, we've been working on a peer-to-peer mentorship that'll hopefully be coming down the line. So having those open conversations, getting to know one another. When we're building teams and committees, having diverse representation of age on those committees and teams as well. Again, this just leads to better innovation and problem solving when it comes to challenges that we're seeing at the organization.
Yeah, and we also want to make sure education is a big focus of ours too, of educating everyone about our different generations that are here, but not just from scholarly articles, like I said, but we also want to bring panels of peers together who are from different generations to talk about topics. I mean, one of the hot topics for everyone right now is hybrid workforce, and what does that look like across our different generations here, and how do people feel about that? And we just want to make sure that there's awareness and conversation about it. We're also going to look to make sure we're partnering with the other ERGs too. Abe has a lot of experience, and that is definitely directly driven by some generational differences that have come up. WLI has the same thing, women in the workforce. That's been a big shift over generations as well. And to have a conversation about, what that's looked like. Again, learning from our past is really the best way to get ready for, the future and our present for sure. We want to make sure that that's the exciting new content and conversations that we're bringing to the company.
Yeah, and speaking of the other ERGs, I think it is interesting that generational diversity as a D&I area has those other areas of diversity within it. Obviously, within each generation, there's different genders, backgrounds, and I just think it's interesting. Hopefully we'll have some even more impactful conversations partnering with the other ERGs to kind of combine the two diverse areas.
One thing we kind of want to leave as parting thoughts for everybody here listening to this and looking forward to what we're doing this year is the key tenets that we really want to focus on is making sure everyone feels respected, that they're being listened to, that they're having the opportunities to share their experiences and their knowledge. We want to make sure that everybody's understanding the big picture of how we all fit here at SJI, and that you're receiving, effective communication about what is expected of you, because in some cases, communication and how you're communicating with each other is really important to how you're going to grow and develop here at the company. And then honestly, the biggest focus for us for this year and what we want to hear not only from, participants in any of our events, but also the company as a whole as we work with HR and also just our fellow ERGs is exchanging of ideas and thought. That's really our big thing, is we want to have really impactful, thought-provoking conversation this year about how we all fit here at SJI. So I know personally, this is something I feel really passionate about and I'm excited about to bring here at the company. And Kate, I'm pretty sure you feel the same way too.
Yeah, I think this is something that our group, it's needed for as far as D&I at the company. And I think our group can do a really good job at supporting it. And we can have a lot of fun with it. I think there's some fun conversations around D&I. And like I said, within generational diversity, there's other diverse conversations that we can be having to even dive a little bit deeper. So we're really looking forward to 2022 and the events that we'll be able to put on around generations and generational diversity.
Yeah, so with that, thank you all for taking some time to listen to us today talk about this. And as always, if you have any suggestions or questions for any of us on emerging leaders, you can reach out to either myself, Kate, or Cheryl Pollock as the co-chairs. Additionally, we are very active on Yammer, so we do encourage you to find us on Yammer. You can follow the conversation there. Or if you are ever interested in joining one of our council meetings or becoming a part of our group, again, we are all available here at any point to answer any questions you have or to take your feedback to make sure we can continue to support SJI however we can. So thank you.